Welcome to the Functional Coaches Corner. I am Kayla. This is John. We are your teachers. Classes in session. We're going to be going over a real life case study. Yes, we can spit information out at you all day long. However, I think the value here is the experience of both of our coaching, the experience of just what kind of clients that we've worked with over the past several years. Most notably, John's experience, because John's experience working with so many different types of clients through different advanced concerns is really exciting to hear from because, he just has that extensive background. So, John, I want to go over just some examples of different clients that you've worked with. So why don't you tell us what you have on deck for us today, and then we'll get into it.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I kind of every once in a while I do a little bit of a total of how many unique clients I see in like a year or so. It's about 350 or so. So
Wow.
we're combining everything. And obviously, I work with clients like I have some that are on an ongoing basis. I do some just like consults and testing, one off type things, 350 or so unique cases. And there's a lot of similarities. But, I could probably boil it down to 10 or so different profiles, obviously male, female, different age groups, things like that. So today, I have probably a very common case that many coaches will run into that I want to share. And maybe I'll put you on the spot, Kayla, and see how you would attack this case.
Yes.
And then we'll give the book answer. But the first thing is like, there's this concept of like bio-individuality where everybody's different. So like I said, I could probably, profile people into 10 different, categories, but within those 10 categories, there's a million different, options. And so like I get asked all the time by certain coaches I work with, they're like, well, why don't we just do like a gut heat protocol for everybody if their gut feels bad or if they feel off? And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, it's not as easy as saying just everybody. And they're like, yeah, but like so many of the times that I see you put together a profile or a protocol, it's the same stuff. And I'm like, well, is it exactly the same? Are we doing it in the same order? Well, not necessarily. Everybody, that's why we have to take into account somebody's health history. We have to take into account our clinical experience or our experience with them and others. And then we look at like labs and testing. So if somebody says, I'm really sensitive to supplements, I'm not going to go in and give them the standard supplement that I would give to somebody who's like, yeah, I can probably take anything and be fine. So that
Mm.
kind of just sets the scene. Today, we're going to dive into a case, a 55-year-old female.
Mm.
Do you have any of those clients around that age group?
Personally, we do not have anyone. Well, I would say when we get that age group, it's usually like training only, and they're just like here to build muscle. We don't really get a whole lot of post-menopausal clients who
Okay.
are looking for relief in that area, no.
Okay. I happen to work with a number of them.
I know, yeah.
And I actually do work with a number of coaches who work with a number of them. So
Mhm.
that age group of like 30 to 65, 35 to 65, I would say is kind of like my bread and butter, men and women. 55-year-old female came to me and kind of was like, look, I do everything right. I think I do everything right at least, and I eat pretty well. And I definitely like get my protein. I eat a lot of salads. I eat veggies. I eat fruits like every day. I work out 3 to 4 times a week. I go to a class. It's like a circuit training. Let's call it kind of like an F45 type deal.
Mhm.
Um, it's like dumbbell workouts. I do try to get steps, but like I have a desk job, 3 to 5,000 steps a day, and sit in front of a computer. But like try to get up and take my. I talk about this with my clients. My smoke breaks, right? It's like, well,
Mhm.
how come the smokers can get up and go outside? I
Yeah,
can
it's
go
kind of
for a
wild.
walk, right? She doesn't smoke for the record. The biggest complaint was like, look, everything I do, I can't lose weight and feels like she's doing everything right and her weight won't budge. So again, how many times have you kind of like heard this
Oh,
person
yeah. Oh, I'm doing
and
everything right. I'm doing everything
everything
right.
right?
Why is nothing working? Yes.
And a lot of our like the coaches that we work with have a lot of these clients, and many of
Right.
them, you know, do kind of do everything right, or at least what they've been told. And a lot of times our coaches get them into like fueling properly,
Mhm,
reverse diet, like, and then all of a sudden like everything works. But what happens when it doesn't work? The other aspect is what I like to do with my clients. I like to get ahead of things. So this is why I generally ask for like blood work up front. So when we're on
mhm,
a sales call, it's like, all right, cool. This is going to be a great fit. Let's
mhm,
here's kind of like my list for you. I'd like you to track a couple days worth of eating. I'd like you to send me over any recent labs. I'd say like even in the last year or so, ideally in the
mhm.
last 3 months, 3 to 6 months max. But some people, not everybody's perfect, myself included. Maybe their last lab work was a year ago. So that's fine. Then we'll, dive into everything. So I like to kind of have a look at things like that. So anyway, back to this client. She takes a multivitamin already. So like supplements are in the mix. She takes fish oil. She takes magnesium. Takes probiotic. Kind of like feels like she self proclaims a little bit dangerous in this area. She reads a lot of things. Kind of gets it. And then what we did is we did identify a day in the life
Mhm.
of eating, and we did also look at her blood. So the first thing that we want to look at is like when we look at blood work, what are the things that are kind of out of range? So
Yes.
anything on there highlighted in red, or it's black and white usually, so it's highlighted in black and it's out of the range that's on that lab work. And then the second thing we want to do is what about like optimal?
Yes.
Because every time I talk to a client, I'm like, "So, I have a question for you. Would you like to just be, like, healthy or just okay, not sick," I would say,
Yeah, not sick,
or
not on
you
medications,
wanna
yeah.
be optimal, right? No,
Right.
I haven't ran into a single person who's like, "Oh, I just wanna get not sick." Even my diabetic clients who have an A1C of, like, 9, they're like I'm like, "Do
Mhm.
you wanna get not diabetic or do you wanna be optimal?" They're like, "Optimal." Everybody says
Right,
optimal.
right.
So, asked her this, and, she's like, "Obviously, I wanna be optimal," but, like, I had these labs done by a doctor, and they said everything's fine.
Everything is normal, yes. I went on a rant about this the other day just to remind coaches or remind people not to accept that, "Yeah, hey, I got my labs done, everything looked normal, my doctor said everything is normal." Don't accept that, just get the labs over and take a look for yourself.
I've I've been on both sides, obviously, like, I've understand why sometimes doctors do not run labs that you ask for. I do understand why they sometimes don't dig deeper. In some cases, like your general practitioner, GP doctor, in some cases, like if they run a lab and there's an abnormality and they don't really know what to do, they're gonna have to refer you out. And so like a really good doctor will say, I hear your symptoms, like if it's a GI symptom, I'm gonna send you to a GI doctor. They're gonna do the testing. Like that's
Mhm,
the typical protocol. Some doctors don't have the network, don't know a doctor to send you to, don't understand kind of like this protocol. So if you have and many times if you have a doctor who's kind of like, well, if I do your thyroid with antibodies and they come back positive, I can't treat that. The next best thing to say is go see an endocrinologist if you're worried about that. And then an endocrinologist is hopefully, hear your concerns, run the labs that are needed and things like that.
mhm,
This can go on and on and on. You've got endocrinologists, cardiologists, like bounce from one to the next. And a lot of, people don't want to necessarily like go see 50 different doctors
right.
with your copays and deductibles and all that stuff. So it's,
Mhm,
there is a lot of pressure from insurance companies to say like, hey, you're a GP doctor. You should just be running this is what's generally accepted as the labs. It's, your CBC, your CMP, your lipids, and maybe TSH or A1C and or A1C. Once you go outside of that, a lot of times governing boards start to ask questions. Why are you running this? Is this your practice? Like things like that. So again, just like you or I sometimes don't want to deal with, some of this noise or
mhm,
whatever, it happens. So, anyway, this client in particular, back to the back to the story. This client in particular, we have some lab work for her. So the first thing that kind of like stands out is, we have a routine kind of like complete a blood count. We have a metabolic panel, we have a lipid panel, and we have TSH.
Okay.
So what do each of these kind of like mean for maybe a newer coach? Your metabolic panel is, it's not, I guess it's technically your metabolism, but like not metabolism in the fact of like calories do you burn.
Not like your
Metabolism.
thermodynamics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's metabolism in terms of like keeping you alive. Or is your
Right.
kidney, what's your kidneys do? What are your kidneys doing? What are your electrolytes doing? What are your,
Mhm.
what's your liver or like things like that doing? Then we have the lipids. So that's like cholesterol, triglycerides, things like that, good, bad cholesterol. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And that's a pituitary hormone that tells your thyroid what to do. So it signals your thyroid and says, produce more, produce less. And then in this particular one, we also have a urinalysis. So urinalysis looks at urine and it's going to show kind of like metabolites around like your kidneys and stuff like that.
So that's not a whole lot on that lab work.
Now,
Not a whole lot
um,
ran.
but this is probably 90% of what I see when a client comes to me with labs.
Let's go back. Did you go over, did I miss that her goals? What did she come to you
Yeah.
wanting to get worked
Wait.
on?
Yeah. So she's 55 years old, 75 pounds, 5'5",
Okay.
and she wants to get down by about 20-30 pounds,
Got it. Okay.
and she can't. Weight loss resistance. And, she's tried a number of different like counting macros and the coaches, the Weight Watchers and stuff like that.
And that's really common. A lot of people coming in nowadays have gone through programs and coaching, and that's important to recognize. That's a big it's so different than it was back in 2021 when no one had online coaches. Now, I talked every 10 people I talk to, like 4 or 5 who have had coaches before.
Yeah. I mean, same if not more, like a
Yeah.
number of, and even,
Probably more on your side too, because a lot of people are coming to you who have tried a bunch of different things, who have gone to functional doctors for the most part.
yeah.
So I could see yours being even more.
Yeah, most of the time it's a coach that is like, "Here's your macros, here's a workout plan," or even just macros, and so when they come to me, there is usually a little bit of a distaste for macros because either it
Mhm,
was way too restrictive or, like, not realistic for them for life or whatever, right?
mhm.
I still have clients that do macros for sure, but it's not the vast majority. So, yeah, that's kinda like this individual's goal. So, what questions do you have, Kayla? Like, what do you want to dive deeper before we get into the
Okay, so
labs?
we have her goal. We have some, I guess, some history, very small amount of history, probably for what I would want. We have a little bit of labs. Then at this point, my questions are more biofeedback related.
Okay.
So we're going over digestion, how her gut health is. We're going over her life stressors, her sleep, her training. So now I'm asking more questions based off of just like her everyday biofeedback.
Okay. Let's say, like, to address some of those questions. So, training, we mentioned circuit training, 3 to 4 days a week, kind of like dumbbell type things,
Hmm.
3,000 to 5,000 steps a day. And her sleep is decent. It's about 6 hours. Her stress has its days. She has an office job, but like quarter end and stuff like that could be higher stress. But she generally comes in 8 o'clock, works till about 5 o'clock, goes home.
Hmm. Did you, how's her digestion?
Digestion is okay. She sometimes is a little bit constipated here or there, but
Hmm.
it's okay. She's going to the bathroom 5 out of 7 days. A little
Mm.
bit of bloating, as she describes it. The stuff that everybody gets.
Okay. And how was her day of eating and caloric intake, all of that?
So she let's do a we did like a recall type eating. So in the morning she'll usually get like a turkey bacon sandwich from like Starbucks. She'll get like a large coffee with cream. no sugar or anything like that. And then she'll have like a light and fit yogurt as like a snack. Lunch is like a salad with some grilled chicken on it. Dinner is usually like grab something from like a takeout place,
Mhm.
whether it's tacos or like a Chipotle bowl or like a Chick-fil-A salad or something like that.
Okay, so she's eating out quite a bit and a lot of things that she doesn't have control over as far as portions. I mean, do you believe she's more of the under eating side or more of like she's overeating, over consuming?
She claims that she eats about 100 grams of protein a day or so. She kind of like tracks. She dabbles in tracking and
Okay.
in and out. My initial perception is probably in, maybe she needs a little bit more balanced macronutrients. Obviously like eating out, there's some of those fake healthy foods and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, but I want to look
And she's
deeper than
right.
just food.
She's postmenopausal, right? Like she's
Hmm.
55.
Hmm.
Okay. So I guess my first question would be, what do her laps look like?
Okay, let's do it.
I guess that wasn't my first question. I had like a bunch of other but I think that's important too. It's like we have to gauge, okay, are they truly coming to us from a place of under eating, overeating? I think that gets misconstrued a lot. That their digestion obviously is important in training history. So while that wasn't my first question of what do her labs look like, and that's definitely probably the most obvious next question, I
Mhm.
just like to have a lot of that other biofeedback first.
We're doing a full health history
Sure.
intake, and even we recommend our coaches who do like GHMC start by like intaking and doing a bunch of questions.
Yes.
So now we'll kind of like dive into labs. And I will say that remember, like none of this is diagnosing anything. We're just using this to influence our recommendations around where we start these clients. And this is definitely just like illustrative and an example. So routine chemistry, let's start with the things that are out of range. So
Out
we've
of
got
conventional range,
out of
right?
conventional range.
Okay.
Yep. So we've got glucose at 108. We've got hemoglobin A1C at 5.7.
Mm,
We've got LDL cholesterol at 140.
mm,
We've got trace blood in her urine.
Did we have HDL?
We do have HDL. HDL is not our range, but it's 65. Those are
Okay.
the out of range ones, and not necessarily out of functional range, just out of
Conventional range.
conventional
That's
range.
like so we go big red flag, then we go beige flag. Well, for us, it's another red
Yellow flag.
flag, yellow flag. Okay, so big red flags for sure, I'd say like glucose. That's a really great place to start. We wanna look at, is she potentially insulin resistant? Is that why she's been struggling so much with losing weight over the last little bit? So that's always a really good one to look at. That's
Yep.
probably where I would start. A1C 5, 7. That's high.
Yeah. So
That's I mean, that's
we're not diagnosing, but if a doctor were to look at that, they should be saying she's pre-diabetic.
sure. Yep. So definitely glucose, A1C, that's a good low-hanging fruit thing that we can work with.
Yep. And then what about LDL 140? What do you think about that?
I mean, we're high. We're high there. So that's always tough because do we have triglycerides? Do we have more
Yeah,
of a
triglycerides are 134, not out of conventional range.
okay. So LDL definitely higher than what we want.
Yeah, LDL conventionally they want it under 100.
Okay.
Cholesterol is probably a great future episode to dive into because to me it's less so like oh she's eating too much saturated fat. It's more so there's something out of balance in her body, and so your liver actually produces these LDL, these lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, and so there's when your liver starts increasing production of these, it could be in response to too much, bad cholesterol kind of like in the body. But since your liver is producing this cholesterol, it's usually producing it in response to something. So it tells me there's something out of balance. There's usually some sort of inflammation component to
And
it.
yes. Okay.
All right, so let's give you a couple other labs. So we've
All right.
got AST and ALT. AST is 17, ALT is 21. We've got glomerular filtration rate at 73. We've got HDL at 65. We've got TSH at 3.35.
Ooh, there it is. It's a high
So what do we
TSH.
observe here? They're all
It's a
within
high.
conventional range, though.
They are. They are, but that's why we have to also take her symptoms into account as well. So I would start asking thyroid related symptoms that we might not have asked at the beginning. Sensitivity to cold, hair loss,
Yep.
going back to gut issues is another big thing for me.
Constipation, right?
Yes. So already my wheels are turning with supporting thyroid. I would want to see an actual thyroid panel.
Mhm. Further testing could be
Yep.
TPO antibodies, thyroglobulin antibodies, T3,
Right.
free T4, free T3, maybe total T4, total T3 if somebody's willing
Hmm.
to order it. Money's not an object.
Hmm.
RT3.
Yep. And with her, you said her EGFR was 70
Yep.
something? Yeah, we want to see that over 100.
Uh,
So again, I'm wondering, do we have absorption issues? Do we have some nutrient absorption issues, especially with her TSH being high and her gut history? That's kind of
mhm.
where my wheels start to turn.
What do you think about her? Oh, her BUN is 22 as well. What do you think about her AST and ALT?
The ratio's off
A little bit. I mean,
a
they're
little
not
bit.
bad, right? Like
It's it.
we like teens, but like,
Mhm,
it's 21 and 17, not bad.
mhm, mhm,
To me, like some of these things, and you always say it right. Like, if it's one out of optimal range, is that really the problem, or is the thing that's like TSH again? We like that. Some people would say under two. I would say
mhm.
under 2.5. Like that's almost a full point over where we like it. So like that's
Correct.
a big deal. Her A1C, 5.7. So we like that at 4.8 to 5.2 in an
Mhm.
optimal world. That's point 0.5 above, you know?
Right, right, right. So I'm going blood sugar regulation, I'm going thyroid support, I'm going gut support. That's my first, like, trifecta there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are great. So if we were to, so let's now talk about how we talk to this client, right? So you hop on a call or send a loom or whatever. Hey, like, first off, totally hear you. You're trying everything, but I think a lot of people are looking for a deeper, issue. And especially
Mhm,
if they've been dismissed or told like everything's fine, just work harder.
mhm,
And they are
mhm.
working hard. They're like, Now we did like I don't want to discount the fact that like her diet could probably be cleaned up, right? Can we, you know, the turkey bacon, eating out a lot,
Very rarely people are coming to us who have a perfect diet.
yeah. And so
So,
like I do say like let's give it 3, 4 weeks of clean up the diet before
yeah.
we jump into like supplements. So I also think her steps could be increased. Like she doesn't have to do
Yes.
12,000 a day or whatever, but like, you know,
3 to 5, you said? 3 to 5?
yeah, 3 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, if we give that to, like, 7 to 9
Yeah.
even.
And the circuit workouts, I mean, if that's what gets her to the gym and that's what gets her going and all that stuff, like, fine, right? Like, maybe it's not the best to like build muscle and look like a cover model, but I'm sure like that activity is
But
okay.
if she's 55 and what we know about losing muscle mass and what we know about bone
She should
density,
probably lift heavier. Yeah.
she needs to lift heavier weights. Yeah, absolutely. And that's only gonna help her metabolism.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, that's where I would say, hey, like, does this place you go for, maybe she signs up with you for full training or something like that as a coach. But I would also say, like, hey, does this training place offer other classes? Are you going to an Equinox or like a Lifetime or something like that? That, there is a strength class. There is a progressive overload class. Like you're just choosing this class. So can you do that twice a week or something?
Yeah, that's a good yeah.
And then again, like let's look at like I'm not necessarily huge on tracking for all of my clients, but maybe we track for a week or two to get that protein number to 0.75, zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, especially if we're switching up our workouts. So that puts it at
Yeah.
120, 130 grams protein.
Plus, it sounds like she has experience with doing that as well, so it shouldn't be an extra stressor for her and a learning curve.
Yeah. And like so many of my clients are like super resistant to it. But after like a couple weeks or whatever, they're like, actually, this isn't that bad. And I'm kind of like, it's a for now thing, not like a forever thing. Can you bring in your salad for lunch? Dinner, I have no problem with picking a really good choice. But if you're going to be eating out every single night, you can't just pick like the better choice. You got to pick the best choice.
Ooh, that was a good quote.
Whereas, if you're like eating out once or twice a week, I'm just like, look, pick your better choice. Burger, no bun with the fries.
Right.
But when we're eating out every day, you gotta
The
you
best
gotta be
choice.
best choice. And you gotta say, like, look, like I know you guys usually slap a bunch of butter on the steak. Can you leave it off this time? I've never had somebody like sometimes waiters will be like, yeah, like look at me weird, but they're never gonna be like, no, we have to put the pat of butter on.
One big thing that I noticed a lot, and it's kind of getting off on a tangent here, but if you go somewhere out for brunch or breakfast, I was a server, and the amount of modifications that people make to breakfast, it's wild. It's wild out there, guys. But I also am that person. So I'll ask for like no oil on like my hash browns
Yeah.
because like they'll get drenched in oil and I'll feel like shit. So if you have some type of weird feeling about, "Oh, I don't wanna ask for too many modifications." Coming from a former server,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal.
Everybody
It's
does.
fine. We all
I
do.
mean, I'm in Jersey, you're in Southwest Florida, so, like, I think, like, they're really used to a lot of modification. Most of the places I go have gluten-free bread,
Yeah.
like, stuff like that, so now in some other cities and it might be a little bit tougher, but
Oh,
I
for
find it's
sure.
always easier, like, you can usually always have them omit stuff. So that's where we're starting, like, we're doing a couple weeks there, but so many people are coming and looking for that extra layer. And again, we're not going to go against anything a doctor's saying. We're not diagnosing anything like that. But like
Sure.
looking at the next layer down, it says, I say to her, like, look, we've got some things to clean up with the diet. And a lot of these things can be impacted purely through diet. We don't have to get into like supplements, medication, and all that fun stuff. Um, but a lot of these things can be improved through just dietary changes, maybe some of these fitness changes, maybe some of these lifestyle things, sleeping a little bit better, stress, like stuff like that. And then we're going to look at supplements if we don't get the needle to move. Now, um, the other thing I would say is a lot of people are like, what the hell is wrong with me? There's got to be something wrong. And if we think about at a high level, like we look at the glucose, the A1C, this is not going to prevent her from losing weight. It's just going to make it harder. Like I would set the expectations. If we are 95% following the plan, you could expect to lose about a half a pound a week.
Well, let's talk about that. You said 95%. What about 80/20?
For my clients, 80/20 doesn't seem to work.
It doesn't work.
I'm
I
a
think that's
90 ten
why
percent guy, and I usually do address like 80/20 is basically gonna be maintenance.
right. That's a great aside because I know a lot of coaches preach like 80/20 rule, and sometimes that's not good enough for some people.
Yeah. 93% of America is metabolically unhealthy. So that
Yes.
would say you or I, one of us is metabolically healthy, one's unhealthy. I've seen both of our blood work, so it's not,
Yeah.
that's not the case. But again, like metabolically unhealthy is going to be outside of probably those conventional blood work ranges.
Mhm.
Now we're not even in the optimal range. That's unhealthy, right? So to get like not unhealthy, we got to get that A1C under 5.6. To
Yes.
get it to
I
be like really good, that's got to go down to 5.2, 5.3. I'll give you 5.3.
what were your recommendations to her to help with that?
Yeah. So starting off, we're going to, for the first month or so, we're going to cover the bases. She already takes a multivitamin, fish oil, magnesium. If we do have a vitamin D marker, let's check that out. If she's in the Northeast, if it's winter time, if she's not getting a lot of sunlight, things like that, we'll probably do a vitamin D, or maybe even go back a year or two, see if she has labs. Might add on a small vitamin D3 K2, like 1,000 IU or something like that. So just like very basics. Then we're going to kind of like what I do is I look at what are you eating now and then
Mhm,
start asking questions around some simple swaps. So I'm
mhm,
going to say like, look, can we pre-make those breakfast sandwiches in the morning? Freeze them, refrigerate them, and just bring them with you. I'm going to save you $5 a day. We're going to pre-make
mhm.
those.
Probably more than that.
Yeah. A
Mhm.
and you could do your coffee at home, or you go to
Right.
Starbucks. Like, get your coffee with a splash of cream, fine, whatever.
Yeah, the cream isn't what's
Yeah.
holding her back.
Um, you know, and again, like, if we're talking, like, the super swirl, Dunkin' extra, extra,
Almond chip,
whatever, like,
almond
okay,
milky chip.
that's 200 calories right there or whatever, but, like, the
Mhm,
25, 30 calories from cream, like, again, not it. Then we're going to look at her lunch. So, like, the salad deal, can you bring your own dressing? Can we make some simple swaps with dressing? Can we add in an apple? Stuff like that. And then, like, dinner, like I kind of mentioned before, like, can we start to either let's go through the menus and let's pick out the one or two things that are going to be the absolute best choice, or how about we start cooking at home, or let's look for something like a meal delivery service, that you're going to know the protein and the macros and all of that stuff.
mhm.
And so starting there, then we're going to talk. We already kind of like talked about like training. Do you have other classes? Can we build some muscle? Muscle is going to be like a sponge for glucose. The
Yes.
more muscle you have, the more glucose you need. So anything
Mhm.
that you eat will get absorbed into that muscle and utilized.
That's when I do think training is really, really important. So, training, building muscle, it's not just for like strength and physique, it's for preventative diseases, it's for, like you said, a sponge for glucose. So, if you have clients who do have either high A1C, they do struggle with their glucose,
Yeah.
insulin resistant, we have to strength train.
I've had clients who we up their carbs, up the strength training, and they actually gain a little bit of weight, but their glucose comes down. Like, obviously, they didn't wanna gain weight. I think it was all muscle, they were losing inches, like, whatever,
How
different
we take
conversation,
pictures,
but
all that.
yeah, and their A1C has gone from, like, 5.4 or 5.5 to, like, 5.2.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's where we're starting. We're starting with, like, training and things like that. We're making sure her magnesium is magnesium glycinate, support relaxation at night, sleep, can we up that 6 hours to 7 hours? Can we up that 6 to 8 hours? Then we're looking at, like you kind of alluded to, what are some things to support her glucose? And these are, I'm gonna start with the food, right? So, like, fiber.
Yes.
Her sandwich probably has 3 grams fiber, 4 grams fiber. Her salad probably has 4 or 5. If she has a piece of fruit, another couple. And then dinner, if she's getting like brown rice or something like that, another 4 or 5.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Do you have a ratio of sugar to fiber?
Sugar to fiber,
Mhm.
I have calories to fiber. Every 1,000 calories, 15 grams of fiber.
'Kay. The reason why I asked that, I was looking through one of my athletes' food logs, and she's getting headaches, and she's really struggling, and I'm like, "We have got 100 grams of sugar and 10 grams of fiber."
Yeah, probably having, if I saw her glucose chart,
It's up
it
and
would
down
be
all
up and
around.
down.
So, I usually tend to say, "Hey, I just wanna if you're getting in 30, 35 grams of fiber and you're getting in 100 grams of sugar, like, see how that you feel, but if you're getting headaches,
Yeah.
let's bring the sugar down too." But it's a little bit more challenging, right, when you have an athlete who needs to eat almost 300 grams of carbs
Yeah,
a
you're gonna get a
day.
lot of sugar. But
You're
how
gonna get a lot
300
of
grams carb, 10 grams fiber?
Right?
Are we drinking juice and eating white rice?
I guess. So we had a chat about that, and, she's on the right track now, but
Yeah, this is where the whole, like, I'm all for, like, using Sour Patch Kids as, like, a pre-workout. It's totally metabolically healthy, and you get your fiber in all other all the other times. But,
right,
like, to get our carbs from Swedish fish is,
right,
missing the point.
right, okay. So I just wanted to see if you had an actual ratio.
Yeah, so, like, what I would say is, like, it's really hard to, like, everybody worries about fruit. It's really hard to overdo your sugar on fruit. Like, because that ratio, like, unless you're eating, I guess, like, mangoes are not, the highest fiber, maybe bananas are not the highest fiber. But if you're eating, like, good rounded out fruit, like, you're getting fiber with sugar. So, like, if you're getting 100 grams of sugar and it's all from fruit, assuming, like, metabolically healthy, training, all of those things, I'm kind of okay with it.
Mhm, okay. But we gotta be getting in the fiber.
Yeah. So, we're gonna do fiber. So, like, we're gonna see, like, can we make swaps like quinoa, really good source of fiber? Can we do some oats in the morning maybe? Like,
Mhm.
even if, like, thyroid is another topic with, like, gluten-free and things like that. However, there are plenty of gluten-free and gluten-containing English muffins and you know, wraps and stuff like that that we could make our own sandwich at home that are going to give you 10, 15 grams of fiber. I have like a power oats before I work out every day, and that gets me to like 18 grams. I'm like, I could do literally anything the rest of the day and I'll still hit
Right.
25, 30
What
grams of fiber.
I always tell my clients, have 3 to 4 food sources that are your favorite sources of fiber and that you eat every day. So
Yeah.
you know that you're gonna hit near 25, 30, 35 grams of fiber
Yep.
easily.
Yep. So we're going to up the fiber. The other
Okay.
thing we're going to like, what are some areas like with your coffee? You go to Starbucks, they have that little cinnamon shaker. Shake some of that into your coffee. Cinnamon is a very potent glucose regulator. So that's going to help like blunt glucose. Another trick is a really high protein breakfast. I've had diabetic clients whose blood sugar has improved immensely, who were not eating breakfast, fasting, and then all of a sudden they are eating 50 grams of protein for breakfast. And then it's like the rest of the day, the blood sugar is like great.
Yeah,
So and I'm like, "Okay, fine, it doesn't have to be breakfast, but, like, your first meal of the day, it's gotta be a ton of protein."
it's gotta be.
And even going from, like, a 10 or 20 grams of protein to, like, 30, 40, 50 grams of protein breakfast, like, huge difference in blood sugar. I don't necessarily see that impact later in the day. Like, it's always a breakfast type thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have new clients come on and they're saying, I'm so hungry at the end of the night, and I'm like reaching in my cabinet trying to get anything that I can. And it's usually those types of clients who aren't eating breakfast or who are skipping
Usually a
lunch.
breakfast problem, yeah.
Right.
So, like, we've just spent 20 minutes on things that are not supplements, but like these things actually do move the needle. So, fiber, cinnamon is great, uh, a huge protein breakfast,
Mm.
and again, like that turkey bacon sandwich from like Starbucks is probably 12 grams of protein. Like, it's not bad, but it's like
It's
not,
not bad.
maybe it's
It's not
15
it's
grams of
not good
protein.
though. You can definitely make it at home, make it taste way better.
Yeah. And for me, and it doesn't fill me up. It's like they keep getting smaller. I'm
I
like,
can
it's
eat
only
2 of
200
them.
calories. Yeah. Yeah, so like add a protein shake with a good protein shake or
Right.
something like that. So
So
anyway,
we're adding to the foods that so that's another thing a good thing for coaches to understand, maybe what can we add versus, like, take away? What can
yeah.
we add versus take away, and start there too.
So that's where we're starting. And then like after a while, like we'll look at like biofeedback and how they're doing and things like that. Now, I would say if you do this, we were talking like 95%. You do all of these things we've kind of like talked about, change up the training, get more steps. I mean, an interesting like hack, and this is like all over social media, so it's like nothing new. Is like go for a walk after you eat. I actually
Mhm.
like I wear a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. Like I'll do it. 3 times a year or whatever. I just happen to be at one of those times right now. And like yesterday, I had chicken with it was like a Kevin's, one of those Kevin's meals, which is,
Mhm.
has a little bit of it's paleo, one
Mhm.
of those with some cauliflower rice and then rice, which I actually cooked with like bone broth, so it has protein in it and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm watching my CGM, and I had that, and then I went right back to work, and I'm watching my CGM, and I haven't hit like these numbers in like months, but my CGM like climbed up to like 150, 160, and I'm
Oh,
like looking at it, and I'm like, holy crap. And then like 10, 15 minutes later, it like plummets down to 72. So like I'm like, all right, time for a nap. But uh I will actually real time see if I had that meal and I hopped on our little walking pad or treadmill for 5, 10 minutes, my glucose is gonna go up to, like, 110.
wow.
And so, again, I'm not saying everybody should get a CGM or, the diabetics need it, blah, 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 but these are
Mhm.
tools that they sell, it's easy to get, there's plenty of them out there for diabetics, stuff like that. If I also don't think it's somebody who's, like, super obsessive over this stuff should be wearing these things, but for me, I like the
You're
data,
like,
and it's
"I
cool to
could
see
see
these
this
things.
going down that way."
So, hopping on, going out for a quick walk, 10 minutes, things like that. I think that's everywhere.
Yes,
So, you
that
implement
does help.
those things over 6 to 12 months, and we'll hit our goals. Now, there are some shortcuts. We all love shortcuts. Americans
We
love
always
shortcuts, right? Well, how do I get rich quick? The shortcuts, there are drugs out there that are going to make these things easier and stuff like that for sure. And everything has trade-offs, including drugs and supplements and things like that. And like even eating healthy, their trade-off is that maybe it doesn't taste as good as you want it to or whatever. But, certain supplements I think could support this. So like one of the biggest ones that is all around is bearberry.
Mm,
I actually do recently like a berberine and chromium mix. Chromium is also going to blunt blood sugar response. So berberine and chromium, ideally you take one like 500 milligrams with each meal, and that's going to just help blunt blood sugar response. What I do see is after about 3 on the really short end to 6 months on the ideal end, it really start to help. So it takes like I've had so many questions where I'm like, "Let's implement bear read." And after like a month, somebody will happen to get their blood work done, and like, "It didn't change." I'm like, "It's like 6 months."
yeah.
So usually over 6 months, I've had a load of menopausal women, post-menopausal, perimenopausal, who did have this estrogen-related blood sugar issue. Um, Another episode down the road, we could talk all about that, but they implement Bearbrain and nothing changes for a couple months. But a year later, we're looking at their labs going from pre-diabetic to like optimal. But they've done everything else right, but like this is a little bit of like an enhancer. So again, I say shortcut, but like it's kind of like a 6 to 12 month shortcut. So Bearbrain
That's
Chromium are
substance for
really
you.
good.
So, I mean, they work, but
Takes
when
time.
done correctly, they take longer because it's not
Yeah.
medication.
And then other things we're looking at, like with thyroid, selenium and zinc are super
Mhm.
important. In a perfect world, like you could test iodine, see if that has anything to do with it. Yeah, not that we're going to test and diagnose and dive into all that stuff, but I encourage my clients to get educated on it. And I've had a couple clients who go to their provider super educated on the topic and they say, what about like iodine? Because that's a precursor, blah, blah, blah. Their provider's like, sure, let's do it. Like, I think that makes sense. And they do it and their iodine's low. They're deficient in iodine. That's the problem. Iron, like stuff like that. So, we're really looking at like I like the multivitamin. I like the right type of magnesium to support sleep. The probiotic could be helping, could be hurting. Sometimes I'll pull that out, see if they notice a difference. Fish oil, we're gonna make sure it's a good quality fish oil. Let's take the one away from Costco or CVS or whatever.
Right.
Um, and get a good one. And then we're gonna look at like berberine, we're gonna look at selenium and zinc, maybe the multivitamin. We just get a better multivitamin that has like more of these things in it. We're not gonna support iodine because like that could cause more problems. Like I don't even want to go down that route.
We will definitely do a whole lesson on
Thyroid.
Supplements.
Yeah, supplements.
Yeah, supplements. We'll do that because there's just so much out there that people need, don't need, and I mean, we're gonna break that down for you guys too, so that'll be a really good one.
Yeah. So, I think those are gonna be really good support for this client. I do go into every client thinking, what's the minimal effective dose of things
Mhm.
and minimal amount of supplements. And, like, I have clients all the time that come to me a list with, like, 20, and I'm like, "First step, we're gonna rationalize these. I wanna understand everything that's going on and why you're taking them and all of those things."
Yeah.
Um,
This
and
has
some of
been
them are like, they're like, it's this for this, and I'm like, all right, if you don't mind spending an extra $50 a month, I have no problem with it.
right. So, we have to know, did she lose weight?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
um, this client in particular, she lost, she got down to like 140,
Wow.
140, and then we really focused on building muscle. And she came up to about 150 or so, like looking really, good muscular. We had taken out some of like the bare brains and then we re-implemented them. And, when yeah, I've worked with her for years and she's now back down to like 140. And she's like, I want to just like go a little bit leaner, and doctor's happy with everything. Her blood work looks great. Like
Oh,
she's
amazing.
probably 58 now or so. So,
Wow. So cool.
strength trains, like all that stuff. So
I will say that this lesson is what it means to be a GHMC student. I think everything that you've went through is exactly what we walk our students through on our support calls, and it's been really cool just to hear, your thought process through this client case, asking me questions. And if you guys are listening to this and you're like, oh shit, like if he would ask me this question, I might not know. It is okay. I mean, we all grow, we all learn. Where I am now is not where I was just 3 years ago, which is
mhm.
crazy. So we're always learning and improving, but it starts with you and it starts with saying, "Hey, I need to broaden my knowledge. I need to understand the application of these things if I really want to be a leader in the industry and make the largest impact possible." So, John, thank you for going over this case with us. It was really informative. Anything else we need to know about that client, or she's thriving? She's good?
Yeah, she's good. And
Cool.
I think it's just, even if you just start with the lifestyle things that you as a coach can, feel really comfortable with, that's a good first step.
Great. Awesome. Well, this has been a great rundown. And hopefully, a lot of you coaches out there listening feel like, hey, I know what to do with this client now. Maybe you're thinking of somebody in your head this whole time that we were talking. Good. Start to ask these questions. Maybe you're going to adjust your questions for your intake, for your client intake form now. And we'll bring a lot more of these on the show. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.